Okay, this is the UK, Canada, and South Africa. Turn 7. So UK Pacific has 14 IPCs to spend. They're going to buy a tank and 2 mechanized infantry. UK Europe has 24 IPCs to spend. They're going to buy 2 transports for 14, and then the final 10 will be 2 infantry and an artillery. South Africa has 6 IPCs to spend. They're going to buy a tank. And Canada has 10 IPCs to spend. They're going to buy a transport and an infantry. There will be some attacks declared. In the Med, here's what we have happening here. The Canadian infantry in Tunisia is going to load up on the transport and take Sardinia. The British mechanized infantry in Libya is going to load up on a transport and take Sicily. Sicily. Oh, sorry, there is one more thing that I didn't mark. The South African mechanized infantry in Cairo is going to take Tobruk, just to deny the Germans and Italians landing spaces in North Africa. Okay, the other attacks in Egypt, the South Africans are going to load up an infantry and a tank onto their transport, and an infantry and an artillery onto the British transport. And the 2 transports are going to go 1, 2, 3 into Sea Zone 97 and attack Yugoslavia. That attack will be supported by the battleship from Sea Zone 94 and the 2 cruisers from Sea Zone 96. There'll be offshore shots for both of those. Okay, in the Pacific Theater, there are 2 attacks. One of them is in Kiangsi, and we're coming in with 3 infantry and a tank along with a fighter. 3 infantry from Hunan and a tank and a fighter from Kwangtung. The final attack will be Sea Zone 43. The destroyer there will be attacked with a attack bomber and a fighter from Kwangtung. So that's all the combat. Let's roll some dice. Sorry, the British bomber from Cairo will also be supporting the Yugoslavia attack. Okay, this is the mainly South African assault, the amphibious assault on Yugoslavia. The Italians are defending with 2 infantry. The South Africans are coming in on the South African transport ship, the SS Orbita. There's a tank and an infantry. On the British Eastern Fleet's HMS Empire Spearhead transport, there's an infantry and an artillery. That attack is being supported by, from the Eastern Fleet, the HMS Argonaut cruiser and the HMS Duke of York battleship, and then from the Med Fleet, the HMS Ajax cruiser. As well, there's a bomber. Oh, I forgot to put the dice out. So let me just do that really quick. 2 4s, 3 3s, 2 2s, and a 1 versus 2 2s. Now remember, the ships shoot first. In this game, offshore shots are first strike. And both of the Italian infantry are dead, and they do not get to shoot back. So that's the end of that. South Africa takes the territory with no casualties. The attack on Kiangsi, the British coming in with 3 infantry at 1 each. A tank at 3, fighter at 3. 1 hit. That's the mech dead. The Japanese are defending with a mech and a tank. 1 hit. No hits. Hit. One hit. Miss. So UK loses 2 infantry and takes the territory. The attack on Sea Zone 43, fighter and tactical bomber, 3-4. Hit. Destroyer at a 2. Oh, the destroyer is the Murasame. Hit. So we will lose the tac bomber. No, we'll lose the fighter. Okay, so the sea zone's cleared. Okay, non-combat. The Canadians are going to move 2 infantry from Quebec onto a transport. That transport's going to move to Sea Zone 109 and offload in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, 2 of the 3 infantry are going to get on the Canadian transport and move into Normandy, Bordeaux to support the Americans. The Canadian destroyer in Sea Zone 110 is going to move to Sea Zone 112 as a blocker. The aircraft carrier from 94 is going to move to 95, and the destroyer from 96 is going to move to 95 to protect the transports there. What else? Oh, the bomber that participated in the Yugoslavia attack is going to land in Romania. And way all the way down there in South Africa, the mechanized infantry is going to move north 2 spots to the Belgian Congo. Over there in Sea Zone 39 off the coast of India, the South African transport is going to move 3 to Sea Zone 72 off the coast of French Madagascar. The British transport in Sea Zone 39 is going to move to 41, pick up the infantry and artillery from Sumatra and bring them back to India. Actually, you know what? No. They can bring them back to... let's go Shan State. Let's land them in Shan State. And actually, while we're at it, let's walk the Canadian from Malaya into Shan State. I'm just looking at that now. Okay, other moves in the Pacific area. The artillery piece is going to move forward into Burma. The mechanized infantry is going to move forward 2 into Yunnan, and the infantry is going to be railed 1, 2, 3 into Hunan. All of the forces in Yunnan that can move 1, the infantry, the artillery, and the AA gun are going to move into Hunan. The pieces that can move 2, the mech and the tank, are going to move into Kwangtung. The fighter in the Kiangsi attack is going to land in Kwangtung. And the TAC bomber that survived the Sea Zone 43 attack is going to have to land on Borneo, because that's the only place it can land. So let me tidy up, and we'll come back with placement and money. Okay, new unit placement for the Canadians, Transport 106, Infantry in Quebec. For the South Africans, way there at the bottom of the board, 1 tank in South Africa. For the Brits in the United Kingdom, we're going to put our 2 new transports in Sea Zone 110. And we're going to put our 2 new infantry in the UK, along with our new artillery. In the Pacific Theater, the tank and the 2 mechanized infantry will go into India. Okay, changes to income. First off, the Japanese are going to lose an IPC for Kiangsi, and the Chinese are going to pick that one up. So, if we go to the board here, China goes from 13 to 14, Japan goes from 28 to 27. In the Atlantic side of the board, the Canadians are going to pick up 1 from Italy, and the Brits are going to pick up 1 from Italy. And the South Africans are going to pick up 2 from Italy. Italy -4, Canada +1, UK +1, South Africa +2. So, Italy, which was at 11, is going to go down to 7. Canada is going to go up from 10 to 11. And South Africa is going to go from 6 to 8. And UK is going to go from 22 to 23. I think that's all the changes. Yeah. Okay. So income. UK Pacific is still at 17. UK Atlantic is 23. Canada's at 11. And South Africa's at 8. So let's do our disposition of forces. Canadians, 2 infantry in Quebec, transport in C-Zone 106. C-Zone 109 has a transport and a destroyer. There are 2 infantry in the United Kingdom. There's a destroyer in C-Zone 112, and there's a transport in 110. In Sardinia, there is a Canadian infantry, and in C-Zone 95 there's a Canadian transport. And the only other Canadian unit on the board is an infantry in Siam. So those are all of the Canadians, if I haven't missed anybody. The South Africans, let's map out where they are on the board. So they just took Yugoslavia, so they have 2 infantry, a tank, and an artillery in Yugoslavia. There's a South African transport in C-Zone 97. Tobruk, we forgot to change that. Tobruk is now South African, although it's not worth anything. There is a mechanized infantry from South Africa in Tobruk. There is a South African transport in C-Zone 72. There's a South African mechanized infantry in the Belgian Congo, and all the way down in South Africa there's an infantry and a tank. So that's all the South African forces on the board. British forces on the board, UK forces on the board. Here we go. Okay, so 3 infantry and an artillery in the UK, 2 transports in C-Zone 110, 1 transport, 1 destroyer, 1 carrier with a fighter in C-Zone 95. In C-Zone 97, we have a transport, a battleship, and 2 cruisers, and they are currently convoying Italy. In Romania, there's a strategic bomber. In Malta, there is an anti-aircraft gun. And that's it for the Europe side of the board. For the Pacific side of the board, we have in India 2 mech infantry and a tank. In Burma, sharing space with the Dutch and Anzac forces, we have an artillery. In C-Zone 38, there's a transport. In Shan State, there's an infantry and an artillery. In Yunnan, there's a mech infantry. In Hunan, there are 2 infantry, 1 artillery, and 1 anti-aircraft. In Kiangsi, there's an infantry and a tank. In Kwangtung, there's a fighter, an AA gun, mech infantry, and a tank. And in Borneo, there is a tactical bomber. So that is the extent of the UK, South African, and Canadian forces. The Aussies, Dutch, and French are up next.